Well, I'm here getting ready to pick up all the stones that are scattered up here on the stage that I used for my sermon yesterday. If you were able to join us yesterday as we live streamed our worship service on Facebook, you might remember that I preached on the living stones and how each of us who are a part of the church are like living stones that Christ has built into his church. And physically, we are not connected right now because of the social distancing. However, spiritually, we're still connected. And we are like living stones, and we are the church scattered. And so today, I want to just put a challenge out to you, first of all, to ask how you have been the church today, right where you are at home. What have you done today to be the church? Or what will you do to be the church this afternoon and tonight? No matter where we are always the church, and we need to be thinking about how we can be the church 24/7. So let me encourage you to think about ways that today and this week that you will be the church right where you are. Well, hey, before I clean these stones off the stage, I wanted to take this opportunity to share a devotional thought with you. Yesterday, after I finished preaching, I had some feedback, and Rick and Kathy Sanders shared with me. They said, hey, why don't we save some of those stones as a memorial, just like the Israelites did? And I might have had some other comments like that from others, but I know Rick and Kathy Sanders had mentioned that in their feedback after the service. And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, boy, that's a neat idea. You know, we really are living in a time where we're going to have a lot of stories to tell. And there's going to be opportunity for us to use what God does during this time period and season in our lives to really tell about his faithfulness to future generations. And I'm thinking about this story where this idea about, stones being a memorial come from is out of the book of Joshua. The Israelites had been wandering around in the wilderness for about 40 years. But after Moses died, Joshua became the leader, and it then became time for the Israelites to think about going in and possessing the promised land that God had given to them. But here was the obstacle that stood before the Israelites. There was a flooded Jordan River. Whenever it came time to go and conquer the promised land, it was in the springtime of the year when the snow had melted in the mountains, and the Jordan River was at its flood stage. So it wasn't really an easy thing to move a group of people across the flooded river. Yet God's timing is always right. And so when God told the Israelites to move, they had to step out into the flooded Jordan River. They had to take a step of faith. And what a scary step that would have been, to step out into the flooded Jordan River. But as soon as they began to move, as they took the first steps, God began to act. And he caused the river to back up so that they could cross over on dry land. And here's what the scripture says in Joshua chapter 4, beginning in verse 10. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones that they had taken out of the Jordan. And he said to the Israelites, in the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what do these stones mean? Tell them Israel crossed the Jordan River on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan River what he had done to the Red Sea when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all the peoples of earth, notice that he says all the peoples, not just one group of people. It is God's will that every tongue, tribe, and nation know him. And so Joshua says he did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. You know, we are living in a unique time in history. I think this time period is going to be talked about for many, many years. Just like we look back and we talk about the Great Depression, we talk about the World War II years, as well as, the weeks and the months after 9/11. This is going to be a unique time in American history. And we're going to be telling a lot of stories about it. to future generations, to our children, our grandchildren, and those who come after us. And so this is an opportunity to take stones from this time, stories of God's faithfulness, and to construct a memorial like this. There's 12 stones here, just like the Israelites were to construct a memorial of 12 stones. I put 12 stones here together. And so let me encourage you during this time to build your own memorial. Be on the lookout for ways that God is at work around you during this time period. Make a note of those things, and those will become stories. Those will become monuments that in the future, when someone asks you about this time, you can say, it was a bad time. We all had to, stay at home, and businesses had to shut down, and we couldn't go out, but God was faithful, and you'll have your own unique stories to tell. So let's use this as an opportunity to see God's faithfulness, and let's use this as an opportunity to build our own monuments to His faithfulness during this time. So with that, I need to sign off, and so let me just encourage you to keep on keeping on, keep on washing those hands, keep on smiling. Remember, smiles are contagious, and smiles have a great way of conveying a lot of warmth and kindness, and that's what we need in this time period that we live in. So may God bless, and I look forward to seeing you later.